Professor specializing in Latin America at the Monterey Institute of International Studies. Ms. Schneider's views are not necessarily those of the Institute's. Ms. Schneider, thanks so much for taking the time to join us. It seems like everybody, including Ortega himself, was surprised at the outcome.
Yes, I think that everybody was surprised, although not totally. People knew that Nicaragua had been suffering, that people had been suffering a great deal, that the economic crisis had been growing more and more intense, and that it would be very logical for people to want some sort of change. The Sandinistas counted on the Nicaraguans feeling that it was really a vote for Nicaragua versus a vote for the United States, that the Violeta Chamorro's connections with the United States would be viewed as a negative, and that people would be willing to suffer more of the economic crisis and blame it on the U.S. embargo and the U.S. Contra war, and that they would be willing to take the consequences, understanding the background to that.
Excuse me, I just wanted to ask you, since we just heard from Santa Cruz some of the understandable questions, the risks facing this new UNO party. What do you see as the risks, not only to the new government and to Nicaragua, but to Latin America?
Well, I think that the UNO party is going to have its work cut out for it to hold together its coalition. It's a coalition that is primarily held together by its opposition to the current situation in Nicaragua and opposition to the Sandinista regime. It will have it will be able to do that. What will make it easier for it to do that is that it's clear that it will be receiving support from the United States, that, as Bush has announced, the end of the trade embargo, the end of the Contra war, all of these things will make it very easy for a new government to overcome some of the problems that Nicaragua has faced. One of the issues that this is going to address in terms of Latin America is to what extent countries can embark on new kinds of economic models without worrying about whether the U.S. approves or not, whether the U.S. will launch a trade embargo or give aid, and to what extent the success of economies in Latin America is going to be dependent on U.S. policy.
Does this mean, in your opinion, that Uncle Sam is no longer a boogeyman to a large part of Latin America, and that there is that this foretells a change in relationships between the U.S. and the rest of Latin America?
What it entails is that what Latin Americans will have to come to terms of, whether they like the United States or not, is that they don't seem to have the power to confront the U.S., that they are going to have to make terms with the United States. Many governments, many parties are not going to like this at all, that they will feel that this is an infringement on their autonomy. So it will not make the United States a good guy necessarily, but it certainly will mean that governments will be more likely to work with it.
Kathy Schneider, thanks so much for taking the time to be with us.
Thank you.
We'll have more from